It was supposed to be a normal day on The Price is Right. Just another excited contestant. Just another round of Plinko. But then something happened that no one could explain. A college student dropped her first chip. $10,000. The crowd roared. She did it again. Another $10,000. And then again. 3 perfect drops in a row. She was about to go for her fourth when everything stopped. The lights went dark. A producer leapt forward, snatched the chip midair, and shouted one sentence that sent a chill through the entire studio. "The game is fixed." For the next 15 minutes, no one said a word. The audience froze. The host vanished. The curtain dropped. What happened behind the scenes that day nearly destroyed one of America's most beloved game shows. But this wasn't the first time The Price is Right faced disaster. And it wouldn't be the last. From quiz show scandals and secret rigging, to million-dollar lawsuits and a host accused of abuse, the truth behind The Price is Right is far more shocking than anyone ever expected. Before the flashing lights, spinning wheels, and million-dollar showcases, The Price is Right was just an idea. Born on a New York sidewalk. In 1956, a television producer named Bob Stewart was walking down 50th Street in Manhattan during his lunch break. There, outside a building, he saw a crowd gathered around a sidewalk auction. People were shouting bids, laughing, gasping at final prices. That moment hit him like lightning. What if there was a game show where regular people guessed the prices of everyday items? He scribbled the idea down and called it The Auctioneer. Bob Stewart wasn't just a dreamer. He was already working in TV, with experience at WNEW and NBC. Not long after that sidewalk moment, he met a man named Monty Hall, who would later become famous for Let's Make a Deal. Through that connection, Stewart pitched his pricing game to Goodson-Todman Productions, one of the biggest game show powerhouses of the time. They loved it. The show was renamed The Price is Right. It aired for the first time on November 26, 1956, with Bill Cullen as the host. But things didn't exactly go smoothly. During the pilot taping, Cullen accidentally crashed into a wall on set. A stagehand had missed a cue. NBC had already purchased the show without seeing the pilot, which was typical back then, but the blunder made them second-guess everything. The network panicked. They offered to pay the producers to kill the show before it even aired. But Stewart and his partner, Bill Todman, refused. They believed in the concept. They pushed forward, and that gamble paid off. By the late 1950s, The Price is Right was starting to gain momentum. But just as it found its footing, the entire game show industry was thrown into chaos. It started with a notebook. In 1958, a contestant on the show Dotto stumbled upon a forgotten notepad backstage. Inside were answers, meant for another player. That one discovery cracked open a hidden world of rigged game shows, scripted victories, and backroom deals that stunned America. Investigators dug deeper. What they found was a bombshell. Multiple quiz shows were manipulating outcomes. Contestants weren't just playing to win, they were being coached, given answers, told how to act. The most infamous case? Charles Van Doren on 21. A charming Ivy League professor who became a national hero, until it was revealed that he'd been handed answers in advance. The public was outraged. Congressional hearings were launched. In 1960, new laws were passed that made rigging a game show a federal crime. Almost overnight, most of the big-money quiz shows vanished from the air. But The Price is Right survived. Why? Because its format was bulletproof. Contestants guessed prices. There was no correct answer to feed them. There was no way to script it. That perceived honesty turned into a major advantage. At a time when viewers felt betrayed by television, The Price is Right became a rare beacon of trust. By the early 1960s, even the honest charm of The Price is Right couldn't shield it from changing tides. Ratings began to dip. In 1963, NBC pulled the plug. But ABC wasn't about to let a good thing die. Just months later, the show returned to air on ABC with a few tweaks. Celebrity guests were brought in. The set got a makeover. A new announcer, Johnny Gilbert, stepped in. But the core idea stayed untouched. Guess the price. Don't go over. Simple. Addictive. Familiar. Behind the scenes, the show's real power came from its sponsors. Lever Brothers, now known as Unilever, used The Price is Right as a brilliant product placement machine. They promoted everything from whisk detergent to Imperial margarine. But one product stood out: Dove Beauty Bars. Contestants received free bars whether they won or lost. And it worked. Dove sales exploded. Despite the fresh look and loyal sponsors, the show's original run ended in 1965. For 7 long years, The Price is Right disappeared from television. Then, in 1972, it roared back. CBS launched The New Price is Right with a new host, Bob Barker. Gone were the black and white quiz show vibes. In came a brighter, bolder format that felt more like a party than a game show. Contestants now bid in whole dollars. The show was shorter, just 30 minutes, but it didn't matter. It hooked viewers instantly. By 1973, the word "new" was dropped. It didn't need it anymore. The Price is Right had finally found its true identity. And then came 3 words that would change everything. Come on down. Those words, shouted by announcer Johnny Olson, lit a fire in the studio. People jumped from their seats, ran down aisles, cried, screamed, even fainted. At home, families mimicked the reactions. Overnight, the phrase became part of American culture. Then, in 1975, CBS doubled down. Literally. The show expanded to a full hour. More pricing games, more energy, more chaos, and something completely new: the Showcase Showdown. Contestants now spun a massive wheel, each slice a step closer to that perfect dollar. The wheel wasn't just a game, it was drama, it was math, it was luck, and it made people hold their breath every time it turned. It was 2008. A college student stepped up to play Plinko, one of the show's most beloved games. Her first chip hit the $10,000 slot. So did the second, then the third. That kind of streak was almost impossible. She went to drop her 4th chip. And that's when it happened. A producer sprinted across the stage, slapped the chip out of midair, and shouted, "The game is fixed." The studio went silent. Drew Carey left the stage. The contestant was told to sit at the edge of the platform. The curtain dropped. No one knew what was going on. Not the audience, not the crew. 15 minutes of confusion followed. Turns out, 2 weeks earlier, the studio had been used to film a commercial for The Price is Right video game. To make it exciting, the marketing team rigged the Plinko board using fishing line to guide chips into the $10,000 slot. Then, they forgot to take the lines off. Nobody noticed until 3 perfect drops in a row exposed the setup. CBS was in panic mode. Standards and practices got involved. The contestant was allowed to keep her $30,000, avoiding a PR disaster. Then they removed the lines, reshot the game, and when the episode aired, no one watching at home knew anything had gone wrong. But that mistake was nothing compared to what had been brewing behind the scenes for over a decade. For 35 years, Bob Barker was the face of The Price is Right. Charming, smooth, iconic. But behind the grin and the catchphrases, a very different story was unfolding. In 1994, model Diane Parkinson filed an $8 million lawsuit, claiming Barker had coerced her into a 3-year sexual relationship under threat of losing her job. She said he demanded oral sex between tapings and used his power to control her future. Barker denied it, claiming she pursued him. The lawsuit was later dropped due to health reasons and legal costs, but the floodgates had opened. Holly Hallstrom was fired in 1995. Officially, the reason was weight gain, but she believed it was retaliation for refusing to support Barker during Parkinson's case. She sued and spent nearly a decade fighting. Barker's legal team tried to silence her with settlement offers. She refused, choosing to keep her right to speak out. In 2005, she finally won a multi-million-dollar settlement. Her case had ripple effects. Two other models, Janice Pennington and Kathleen Bradley, were fired after backing Hallstrom. So were two production assistants. The message was loud and clear: support the accusers, and you're out. Lawsuits piled up. Former staffers described a toxic environment filled with fear, racism, and harassment. Sharon Free, a staffer, claimed she was fired after reporting inappropriate behavior. In 2011, model Lanisha Cole filed a lawsuit with 7 separate complaints, including harassment and false imprisonment, accusing 2 producers of creating a hostile work environment. Even contestants weren't safe from discrimination. Multiple sworn testimonies revealed that Black contestants were marked with a B on call sheets and only brought out during later segments. One staffer said Barker didn't want too many Black contestants visible on screen. And then came 2007. 4 months after Barker retired, longtime employee Deborah Curling filed a lawsuit of her own. She had worked on the show for 24 years. Her claims: racial discrimination, sexual harassment, emotional abuse. She said she'd been pushed to her breaking point. When Drew Carey took over in 2007, fans weren't sure what to expect. He wasn't Bob Barker. He was casual, goofy, unpredictable. But over time, viewers warmed up. Then came 2024. Crew members noticed a change. Carey's moods became erratic. One day, he'd be cheerful.